Spoiler site is awesome.
Nice. My big discovery in that game was that you could hold the button down to pat the soil.
Just
going so slowly.
Wow.
It was a hardcore 10 minutes of Viva Pinata for Tom.
That should be an achievement right
I
there.
don't know why I don't know why they did that. I don't understand why you just don't start with soil. It made no sense to me.
Yeah.
It's just like this really boring beginning of the game.
Yeah. Really
But
start.
one of the dragon colors is only on cracked earth, so then you get screwed. Because you make all the soil, you're like, oh, I want the golden dragon.
Worst ones are when you start cracking out on the flutterscotch.
Oh, yeah, I did those.
It's
Those
like,
are,
yeah, it felt like Brando in Apocalypse Now, you know, I'm like, now I have to get this color. And it was like 4 hours later, Angela actually came in, she's like, just leave the butterfly, go do something else or whatever. I'm like, but look at the book,
It sort of starts with Viva Pinata, which I think is a really interesting jumping off point, because the fear is that the game that you guys have all worked so hard on, World of Warcraft, is a game that makes you a gaming monogamous. So what else are you guys playing right now in addition to World of Warcraft?
I'm playing Guitar Hero 2 right now. I just finished Rainbow Six Vegas, was another recent game I played. Gears of War.
I finished Crackdown, really enjoyed that. It wasn't very deep, but it was pretty exciting. Guitar Hero 2, same thing.
I just finished God of War 2. I'm almost done with Zelda Twilight Princess. Played a ton of Viva Pinata when that was out. I'm getting ready to play Guitar Hero 2, but I'm holding off. Also, I've been downloading some stuff on Steam, so I've been playing a new PopCap game, Peggle.
Been playing a little bit of God of War 2, been playing some DS games like Mario on the DS. Been enjoying that a lot. Gotten a chance to play a little bit of Viva Pinata, so all games that I enjoy quite a bit. I also come back to Civ 4 a lot. Been really hardcore in Civ 4.
I just got an Xbox 360, so I'm kind of playing a lot of games on that right now. I do the dumbest things for achievements. The first thing I do with the game is research what to do, and Guitar Hero 2 I was stressing out because you had to get this achievement for saying no to playing an encore. But then I didn't know if that meant that I couldn't go back and play the encore because I also, wanted to play the encore. So, yeah, I'm an achievement whore.
Someone like Brian Intihar, who's one of the previews editors at EGM, or Shane Bettenhausen, who's the executive editor, they're like, we want to play WoW, but we're just afraid we won't have time for anything else then. But I mean, that's not the case.
Well, I think of WoW as sure that it's a game that never ends, and we're kind of conditioned that games are going to end. So people like kind of get in that mode where I just want to finish, want to keep on playing. But I think MMOs are a little more like, I don't know, like the internet. But it's something, if you do a little more casually, you have time to do other things also.
I don't need to play WoW all the time. It's actually, it's going to be there tomorrow. It's going to be there hopefully for a very long time. So I've gone on and played some other games too and try to manage that time. I'm there for our raid nights or for our lunchtime runs and things like that.
Lunchtime runs?
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
We do our quick lunchtime runs. We get together on Mondays right before our lead meeting, and we do like some Coil Fang instance or some Akandun instance. We try to get it done in an hour. Yeah.
I'll come in like at the end of lunch, like, hey Shane, how's the schedule looking for whatever? And then he'll, turn around and answer me real professionally, and then I'll realize their whole group just wiped out because he's playing the priest. Yeah, you gotta heal him.
You guys wipe, you make the game. Shouldn't you just be able to cruise through everything? You know what everything does.
We could do whatever we want. I could spawn 100 Onyxias, and kill them all in one shot, but it's not fun. That's not the game at that point. There's nothing like just, playing legitimately, seeing how things actually go. That's where the real fun is for us.
Now, so you're rating. What are you rating right now? What are you working on in the game?
I've been doing a lot of Karazhan lately. Not the most uber and epic thing in the game, but we have a little anonymous guild. When I started playing WoW, we decided to go anonymous, just underground. No one knew who we were, and we've been having a blast in Karazhan. That's what we're doing right now.
Obviously, then when you're playing that, you have sort of these live guinea pigs that you're playing with, right?
And I just I ask questions all the time. Nobody knows who I am or what I do, and I'll just ask, did you see the patch notes? What do you think of this class? What do you think of that class? What do you think of that item that just dropped? And they just think I'm like an inquisitive dumbass mostly, but really I'm just sitting there, computing all of it. And me and this guy got into a pickup UBRS group, and then just having to get the encounters explained to us. And it was mostly a guild group who just decided to take us to fill in the last couple slots. And they treated us like such morons, and it was just so funny. They're explaining how every little aspect of the fight works. So-and-so, have you ever done Drac before? Well, let me tell you how it works. And they're making up all these mechanics that we know don't exist in the game whatsoever. But yeah, Nixia's deep breath, and we just followed like sheep,
Yeah, what is... Has it ever actually been explained what exactly triggers a deep breath?
It's totally random, and then one patch it actually bugged out. It's not that it bugged, but a bug got fixed related to it, which made it happen more frequently. So it became this rumor that Onyxia was deep breathing more, which it was totally a rumor, and it was totally random. And then all of a sudden one patch, after it had even become kind of this legendary joke, it actually got fixed and was actually deep breathing more. And then we had to stop it.
But the control mechanic was still random. It had nothing to do with players being clumped up or spread out or anything like that.
To continue talking about the player base, I guess, part of the reason with, I guess, the Chromagus encounter is a good jumping off point, because you could do Chromagus in the doorway, but like the first videos that would come out would have Chromagus run down to the ramp, and then people would duck the ramp and then like hug that ledge up top to avoid line of sight. You had to tank them a certain way, and then you have your other tanks, run in, and this was all because of these videos that surfaced. Do you guys watch these videos?
Not only do we watch the videos, but we watch the guild's rating. We can watch real time as they're doing it, and we often do that to make sure everything's working.
We call it WoW TV.
Yeah, WoW TV. Put it up on a second screen. Actually, the earliest Chromagus fights weren't even taking place in either of those spots you mentioned, because of the magical, this is a spot where we line of sight killed something factor that takes place. Guilds were doing these tremendous hunter pulls all the way to the Fire Moss spot, right where Broodlord guards that area. And it was a tremendous pain for them. It would take 10, 15 minutes to get the pull right and get get Chromagus all the way to that spot. And then they soon discovered, the doorway, the ramp, all these other things. So yeah, we definitely watch. We pay attention to everything.
Product not yet rated.
Step away from World of Warcraft for a second and talk about some of the places where you guys have come from. And you two, on either side of me, were big EQ guys, and you guys played together way back when in a guild called Legacy of Steel.
There's a lot about EQ that was truly brilliant, and I think it's one of the greatest games of all time. I would put it in my top 3 games of all time. And there was a lot of EverQuest that was just fun in spite of itself and would never work in today, in today's gaming scene. You just couldn't get away with some of the stuff that the game does. But and there's a tremendous amount of nostalgia behind that game. But it was this golden period, and you got to know who everybody was because it was a much smaller community. It was very competitive. They didn't have the idea of instancing, so you were competing for spawns, and I don't think WoW players can really relate to that. Imagine there's only one Onyxia up on the server, and when Tuesday the patch happens, there's one Onyxia, and the first guild to get to her and to kill it gets the loot. We were talking about the movies earlier. You would never make a movie back in the EQ days and show yourself fighting a dragon because you didn't want to give the strat out. Not only did you want to keep the dragon dead so nobody even got a try on it, and you would keep it dead every week even if you didn't want the loot, just so the guy behind you couldn't power up his guild enough to get there.
Because like in EQ, it was a really big deal of who found the loot first. So you'd see all the sites like Equalizer, the equivalent of Thoughtbot now, but people would always put their guild tag, on the different loot, and it was a really big deal who got the first kills. But yeah, like as far as strats go, really quiet. On any given server, there's almost always a clear-cut number 1 guild. And once you're that number 1 guild, unless your guild falls apart, it was pretty easy to stay there, for some of the reasons Jeff would mention. You would not only be doing it first, but it snowballs because your guild's getting more powerful and the content's getting easier, and you're even faster at it, so the guilds behind you just are never getting opportunities.
Does anyone have a guess as to why? Because I don't. As to why this machinima and why like the world first Nahilam's world first Alal kill. Like they Fraps and took a video and made a video of the first kill of the Phoenix and TK in Tempest Keep. Why has this culture sort of risen?
I actually credit a lot of it to Conquest. Conquest, when WoW first came out, was one of the real bleeding edge WoW raiding guilds. And we had caught them doing some kind of fishy, questionable stuff.
It's just funny because they also came from EQ.
Yeah.
And they actually got banned in an infamous story in EQ.
They were doing some questionable stuff in Molten Core, and we had to action what they were doing. And to get back at Blizzard, their way of getting back at us was publishing strats to every encounter in Molten Core, along with videos and just step by step, here's how to beat the encounters, which in EverQuest would have been considered a devastating thing to do to Sony. Conquest basically did the Brady Games guide to raiding, and all of these guilds were suddenly raiding and knew how to do Molten Core who would have never known how to do it before. And the new thing became not who could kill something first, but who could kill something first, publish the strat in the video, and claim that they came up with it.
Yeah, that means that players are going to be exposed to it, they're going to be able to come up with their strats, but ultimately that's going to lead to a much more finished product. And I think, we really started hitting our stride around Naxxramas, where it's a much more polished experience, and it still lasted a long time for players. So
I'm glad we got around to Naxxramas because that's sort of the thing that WoW Raiders look at as like the pinnacle of what they saw from Azeroth WoW. Talk to me a little bit about Naxxramas in general, because the zone, if you look top to bottom, the zone, like it's winged, the loot is min-maxed. It's like without a doubt, it has some of the most memorable encounters in the game. It has stuff that I remember watching people try and figure out, and trying to figure out exactly why Patchwork is doing these things that he does. Why, like, you think back to those first few times that you pulled him and he just eradicates your entire group. But Naxxramas, really, there's never been anything quite like it.
Well, I think the reason Naxxramas came out the way it did was because we spent more time on it. The construction of the zone itself began before WoW ever shipped. We had layouts of it, we had many meetings on it. It had a strong lore component to it. Naxxramas, everybody knew who Kel'Thuzad was, and they knew its connection to Arthas, so it had that going for it. It had a lot of bosses and a winged approach that let people, if your guild happened to not be good at a Nubricon, but you were good at, one of the other earlier bosses, you could pick the direction that you wanted to go. You could try Patchwork right off the bat, or you could go to the Spider Wing, or you could go to Instructor Vesuvius or whatever you felt comfortable for your raid makeup. And then the fact that it was butting up against the end of, original WoW's lifespan with the Burning Crusade right on the horizon, it gave it sort of a mythos that it wouldn't have had otherwise, because not everybody got to do it. Not everybody actually did kill Kel'Thuzad before WoW was over, so that just its place in the WoW timeline also made it a very special dungeon.
We talked about older games, and you two talked about EQ. What about Shane? Tom, what about?
Well, my background for MMOs comes from Ultima Online. Not only did I play the game for many years, I also worked on the game for many years. So I definitely had a lot of fond memories of the Wild West that was UO when it first came out. There were a lot of crazy lessons to be learned from that game. A lot of fun that we had, back in the day. Was, I guess, kind of earned myself a reputation in that game as being a player killer.
I've never played UO, so I guess for my own edification, I'd like to know what some of these lessons are that you're picking up from UO.
You kind of were out there for yourself, and as soon as you left the safe field of the town, you walked outside. There were people hiding in trees and stuff, ready to kill you. There's a lot of things you can do, things you can manipulate. For example, they'll have like a garden out there with cabbages and carrots in the garden. You can bring your horse there and feed them cabbages and carrots, and it makes them feel good. There was a character in a class in the game, or a type of skill, as a poisoner. We have a programmer on our team who played UO who would go out to these fields and poison all the carrots and cabbages, and you get random people come along to feed their horses. They'd feed their horse would take 3 steps and then die.
You got to understand the way that game works. So it's free PvP. Any place you can kill anybody except for in the cities where the guards will kill you. And then when you kill them, you can just loot them.
Take
so
everything
all
they
their
own.
stuff,
Yeah.
like literally all their stuff, and they will be naked, resurrected, and all they have is the stuff they banked. So if they didn't bank a full set of second gear, then they're now
no
naked.
gear.
They have zero, nothing. Like inside the city, like at the Forge is where everyone would hang out, and people would be bidding on things, and someone might screw up and do an aggressive action, and the guard would kill them, and their body would be lying there. And there's like 20 people around it, and you would actually see him get looted. You would see the graphic of his shirt goes to
flying
this
off.
guy, his pants go to this guy, and it's like these vultures.
And they're just
Yeah, it's like all of his stuff just
a clothed
poofs.
person and then naked person. Strange behaviors. You could pickpocket people, and if someone noticed that you pickpocketed them, they could yell out guards in town, and then guards would swoop in. So you'd see like a bunch of people running around that are naked in town, and you always wonder, what the heck are they doing? Well, they're pickpockets, because they just basically don't walk around with any gear.
Right.
They walk up next to somebody and they pickpocket them, and they don't care if they die because they're not
Once
making
they
lose.
actually successfully get some, they go and throw it in the
Yeah,
van.
go throw it in the van. So
The naked
anytime
guys are
a
thieves.
naked guy walked up to you, I mean, maybe in real life this happens too, but you kind of took a step away from him. You're like, what's up with that dude?
You've been to San Francisco, right? I mean,
This is not unusual.
UO
yes.
is like my walk out of the Tenderloin. Thanks.
Until next time.
Yeah, thanks so much, though. But thank you very much for
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it was our pleasure.
Thank you, guys.
It was fun.
Good times.
Hey.